baseball fans. Welcome to Put Me in Coach. It's a podcast about baseball. And my name is Matt Coggins.
And my name is Carl Mizell. And you just learned something interesting about Matt, is that he is a world champion dog howl impersonator.
And with that, all the dogs in the neighborhood are freaking out.
Yep, so put it in the show notes, headphones on, otherwise your dogs are going to be very upset by what they just heard, because that was slanderous. Wow. How are you, friend?
I'm great. Obviously, I'm bringing a lot of energy to the show this week.
Good.
Our video listeners can see, maybe you can see, I got myself a custom microphone windscreen going on right here. With our show logo. Unfortunately, I didn't take into account that the video gets mirrored when you see it on the webcam, so the logo's totally reversed.
No, it looks. I see it as "Put Me in Coach."
Good.
It looks fine. I'm like you can't read the text on my. For some reason, is mine mirrored for you?
No, it looks totally normal. Okay. My concerns are assuaged. And if you're listening on the podcast, none of this matters.
Exactly. If you're a traditional audio listener, it doesn't matter. Like Matt said, it's fine. It's totally fine. Listen however you want.
Yeah. How you doing, buddy?
I am great. I am not looking forward to next. I'm excited, but also not, because we're gonna production meeting on the air. We're gonna record next Monday night, and then I'm gonna almost immediately go to bed because I have to get up very early for a flight to Texas for work. But I'm getting down there early enough so that I can go catch a game at Globe Life Field. And my boss today, we had our directors meeting, and my boss was like, "Hey, because so many people are coming in so early on Tuesday, I'm going to make a standing reservation. You don't have to come if you don't want to. I know Carl's not going to be there. We have not even discussed it, but he already knows that. He just knows me, and he knows how proximal we're going to be to a stadium. So he's like, yeah, I know Carl's not going to be there.
I know exactly where you're going to be, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, hell yeah, man. Globe Life is, I believe, the newest baseball stadium in the country. So
yeah,
that'll be really exciting.
Yeah, it opened in 2020 because it opened during the COVID year and hosted the World Series that year.
That's right. So enjoy that new stadium smell.
Yeah, new ballpark stadium smell.
They're still breaking it in. I'm sure the urinals still are fresh and clean, and all the doors work on the stalls.
I'm going to be looking, as I walk the concourse, I'm going to be looking for any monitors or screens that might still have the film on them.
Yeah. The little sticker that shows you how much energy you were saving.
Exactly. Hey, you mind if I peel that off? It's just a thing I do.
What are we talking about this week, man? What are we talking about?
Well, you led the news, the top of your news segment, with probably the biggest story still in baseball. So let's not beat around that particular bush and get right into it.
But before we do that, what is the episode about? I mean, like, what are we talking about?
I don't know, lots of shit. No, we are talking about rookies. We've seen a couple of really excellent rookie performances early on this year. I'd say most notably Gunnar Henderson in the big series he just had in Boston this weekend. But we're going to be talking about rookies. We're going to be talking about some rookies that hit it big, some rookies that didn't hit it big, and some dudes that just sort of took their sweet-ass time becoming amazing baseball players. So that is what we're talking about. This is the second podcast I've recorded in 4 days where there was an awkward moment. When I recorded Cheap Smut on Friday with Katie, she did her usual intro. This is Katie Mizell, I'm Carl Mizell, and this is something, a podcast, blah, blah, blah. Welcome. And I sat there for like 7 seconds because I didn't know who the fuck she was talking to. I'm like, you don't welcome me. I live here. But
the audience, the greater they.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I was like, you're supposed to say, how are you? And then I left it all in.
Yeah. Perfect. That's how it should be. And you know what I'm going to do?
Leave all this in.
This is great. This is great radio. No, but I'm looking forward to this conversation we're going to have. We did attempt to get a special guest on for this week. We have a topic that we're brewing. about the toxicity of fan bases, and we've invited a very special fan that hopefully will join us soon that brings a positive vibe to it. I know that's kind of a hot topic right now, and I hope our fans, our listeners, know that that's something that we are working on in the background. But the rookie conversation was also big this week, especially with Jackson Holliday making his debut. So we are going to talk about that. But before we get to all of that, let's hear the baseball news. So like you said, biggest story in baseball still, and hopefully we'll go away a little bit after this. Ippei Muzahara surrendered to authorities, released on a $25,000 bond, ordered to surrender his passport, barred from gambling or visiting casinos, and most importantly, cannot contact Shohei Ohtani at all. And right before he turned himself in, the charging document was released. It showed the extent of his crimes. Anybody that doubted, Shohei's innocence in this, probably looking a little silly. I know we speculated a little bit on the show, but holy shit, this guy took Shohei for a ride.
Yes, he did. And that, to me, is not even the most alarming thing that came out in all of this. What shocked me the most was the complete lack of guardrails around Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Ippei was the only interpreter. His agency doesn't have an interpreter. Like, nobody that works with him on a close level has anybody else who can interpret.
That's scary.
It was literally just Ippei. And some people have speculated, like, well, they didn't want to throw out. He was the golden goose. Nobody wanted to distract him or upset him. They just wanted to let him have everything he wanted. If Ippei's the only guy he wants, then that's the only guy he gets. But holy shit. There were, like, he was impersonating Shohei Ohtani to the bank. He was turning off the alerts so that on his account so that Shohei wouldn't see the transactions were going through. His Shohei's agency was calling Ippei, like trying to find out what the fuck is going on with this dude's salary. What's up with his bank accounts? He's like, don't worry. I got it. It's fine. And then there was a moment in there. There was an exchange between the bookmaker and Ippei. Yeah, He was like, it's Friday at 2:00. You're not returning my calls. I see victim A walking his dog in Long Beach. Should I go talk to him and ask him where you're at? Holy fuck.
Which is like, okay, if that's just a random person, whatever, but you know that this is a crooked bookie who is up to some nefarious shit, and he's saying, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if I went and had a conversation with our mutual friend, Mr. Ohtani over there, eh?
Mr. Vic Tima, victim A, as somebody very cleverly pointed out in the defector comments, like somebody's going to show up with a number 17 Dodgers jersey, but it's going to say Vic Tima.
Oh, I was going to say, it's sort of like when, every crime Trump's been involved in, he's always like, person one or whatever. It's like, we know who we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Dude lost a shit ton of money, $40 million, but he was gambling. I mean, like they showed he gambled away something close to $150 million and won only about $110 million. So it's like, you could tell he was definitely one of those insane, I don't want to say insane, but those depraved addicts that is like, the next one is the last one, and I'll hit and I'll walk away, and he never did. And I do hope he gets help. I hope he gets better. Obviously, he's learned the error of his ways. There was one text with the booker I found kind of comical too, where the booker was like, wow, I'm reading the news. They're saying you're stealing from Shohei, but that's not true, right? That's all bullshit. And Ippei is like, no, it's true. This is the end for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, at least he knows.
Yep, he's totally fine. Where else is an interpreter going to come up with tens of millions, almost nearly hundreds, plural, of millions of dollars?
I just don't know where he got any of that. I mean, they say he only stole like $16 million from Shohei, I think. I guess, yeah, $16 million is what I wrote down in the notes. That's what they said is what he officially stole. I don't know for a fact, but
I just don't. The numbers don't, like, how can you place, how can you lose $40 million in like, I think it was like you said, 150, 110 for a net loss of $40 million, but only steal $16 million. That doesn't quite math for me.
No.
And I'm pretty good at math, but that doesn't add up. No pun intended.
Yeah, I wonder too when he got to the Dodgers. I kind of just had this thought too of like at the Angels, nobody was really paying attention. Nobody really knew. Obviously, they just wanted him for him. When he gets to the Dodgers, I wonder if they had a little more of a support structure. Some guys that maybe were a little more familiar with overseas players, Japanese players. You know, Japanese players have gone through that organization before. I wonder. And Trevor, not Trevor, Tyler Glasnow said something today or the other day where he was like, "Oh yeah, we all kind of knew Shohei was innocent because Ippei was like really sketchy." And so I'm like, interesting. So the Dodgers as a unit kind of knew something was up. I found that very interesting. And of course it comes to light instantly. And it's probably more to do with the timing of when this bookkeeper was getting investigated, but still very interesting that it happens like the second Shohei becomes a Dodger.
Yeah, it makes me. I really would love to see the alternate timeline where this happens and he's still an Angel.
Or any other team.
Or like, what if he had signed with Toronto? Like, imagine the legal wrinkles that would have come from him now being in Canada.
Ippei's just over in Toronto like, well, hey, I'm not going to go on the next road trip or any of them. I'm going to stay here. You guys go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay here and Google Canadian extradition law. No
All right.
reason.
We got to move on. I mean, I hope that this story is going to go past us. It clearly hasn't affected the way Shohei's been playing. He's leading the league in several categories. He's hitting. He's hitting some home runs. He's doing great. I think they're even talking about letting him pitch by the end of the year. So,
wow.
I hope
Wouldn't
he's
surprise
doing
me.
better. I mean, he's married now. He's got his dog. Like, I hope he's in a better place with a better support system around him and not just leaning on one really fishy person.
Yeah, maybe get a second interpreter to verify.
Or just a buddy. You just need a buddy.
Anything, yeah. You're one of the richest athletes in the world now, or you're set to be. Like, bring a friend over.
Mookie Betts seems cool. Hang out with him.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy. He'll teach you
Go
how to bowl.
golfing. Go bowling with him. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Next up, we got the Bad Bunny Sports Agency. Did you know Bad Bunny had a sports agency? Do you know who Bad Bunny is?
I barely.
Okay.
I barely. When I had to learn who Bad Bunny was, it definitely made me feel old. I knew he was a baseball fan. I know he like name checks players and songs and stuff, but I didn't know this.
So to sidetrack entirely, a couple years ago when I first moved to Washington Heights, I'd see they always have these insane posters where like 20 people are on the bill for a concert. I swear to God, 20 people concerts. I don't know how they do them. I don't know how they work.
Doors are at 6 a.m.
Every single one of them either has the most normal name, like Jose Alvarado. Okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah.
And then it's like some ridiculous, like goofy name like Bad Bunny. So I see this name Bad Bunny on here. I'm like, is there a professional rapper going around calling himself Bad Bunny? That's like the name of a Bratz doll my sister would play with as a kid. You know? And then years later he gets big and I was like, what the fuck? So, okay, he's got a sports agency. It's mostly appealed to younger players. I remember seeing Francisco Alvarez is one of them that signed with this agency. It's called Remas Sports, and it's facing punishment with the MLBPA for improper conduct with one of their two certified agents, William Arroyo, getting his license revoked. They haven't really officially said what they did, but it's believed to be involving some sort of pay-for-play scheme, improper gifts, financial donations to players to like convince them to sign with this agency. Very fishy, scalping behavior kind of stuff. MLBPA can't catch a break this year, man.
No, this isn't really their fault per se, but this is just another thing that they've got to deal with. And I've kicked like I was curious, like I wanted to look into like what does it take to become a certified agent, and it's a process and it's expensive. Like I don't know if like the agency fronts the money if you want to work for them, but it's an expensive process. It's an arduous process, and for those starting out without the groundwork laid by a Bad Bunny, somebody who's already pretty financially secure, it's hard to get into. So the fact that they were just willing to throw away a career that's very difficult to get into, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people at the agency were also pretending they were certified and weren't. They only had two, so now they have one. that's certified. So, I mean, good luck with that.
I've been the only certified person in certain roles at jobs in the past before. It's no fun.
About to get a lot harder, right?
Right, exactly. This person's going to be doing a lot of extra work and also answering the phone a lot, going, no, I know, we're dealing with it. No,
Yeah.
I understand.
But we saw Jordan Montgomery leave Scott Boris's employ this year, or this last couple of weeks. So I guess the market's kind of open for non-Boris agents if you can get them, I guess.
It's open season on Boris clients.
Here's what it's not open season on: televised Major League Baseball games.
Nice.
I guess NBC's Peacock is dropping the Sunday morning baseball games. A time-honored tradition. We love watching baseball at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we loved getting this dumbass app from NBC to watch it. But it's not good that less people are carrying baseball games, and I do believe that. And it seems like the MLB is just shedding TV deals left and right. ESPN is no longer airing baseball games after this season. Obviously, we know all about the Bally/Diamond bankruptcy situation with 3 teams already without an RSN that the MLB is just carrying as part of MLB TV. What do you do? Like, what is the answer to this? I guess if it was up to me, I wish more teams would do exactly what MLB's doing with the Diamondbacks, Padres, one other team.
The Rangers?
That could be.
I think the Rangers or the Guardians.
Basically, if you live in the viewing area, it's free. You buy MLB or you sign up for MLB TV, but you can watch it if you live within the non-blackout region. And if you live out of market, it's part of the MLB TV package, obviously. And then they put it on. The team puts it on. A lot of teams even have in-house broadcast teams, like the Tigers, for instance. Everybody that does the broadcast works for the Tigers, not for Bally.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that a better environment for this kind of stuff is possible, but right now it's kind of a scary moment where you think, like, well, what are they going to do? Apple seems to be firmly doing the Friday night stuff, but, there's 150 odd other games that you want to watch from your team.
Yeah. I know we didn't plan this, and I'm not going to go full on and get my good soapbox out. I'm going to get my backup.
Is this the Carl soapbox?
This is my soapbox.
Okay.
I would like it if everyone would stop complaining about how hard it is to watch baseball games in 2024. Not you. Because here's the thing. People are acting like this is a new phenomenon. Baseball, even when I was growing up as a child, when you were able to watch the Tigers on Pass. Do you remember Pass Sports?
I don't. I was firmly Fox Sports Detroit was the main thing I remember.
Pass is the predecessor to that. And they would only, even when the Tigers were good, like in the mid to late 80s, you were lucky if 100 games were broadcast on television. Baseball has never been, there are 162 games. This is, people compare it to the NFL or NHL. Like, this is not the same thing. There are exponentially more games played, and it's not like they haven't been on over-the-air broadcast in decades, and you haven't had over-the-air broadcast in decades because we're all cord cutters. So please stop acting like this is a new phenomenon and that watching baseball is extremely difficult, and do not act like you're out here trying to watch all 162 games. You're not. Even I'm not, and I'm a degenerate.
Even if you were, you'd be just buying the MLB TV package because it's
exactly. Exactly. So, look, I get it. MLB sometimes seems like they don't want anybody to watch the games. Yes, blackout rules suck, and if you're paying that much money for MLB TV, you should be able to watch all the games. That said, please stop acting like the fractured landscape of streaming has ruined baseball. It hasn't. We're all still here watching it. We're all bitching about it in the subreddits. Somebody's watching the games. It's got to be us. Stop acting like it's impossible to watch a game.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree. I totally agree. And it is still the most accessible sport out there, I think. I can't tell you how many times I want to watch the Lions. I was like, I would pay easily $100 a season to watch every Lions game.
Yeah.
That option is not available. you could sign up for YouTube TV, which is $50 a month, or I don't know, $100 a month, and you can add on the NFL package for $500.
Yep.
I'm not spending that kind of fucking money to watch one team play 16 games. No, but I pay, what, $100 to watch the Tigers this season, which is less than $1 a game. If you could have a similar relationship with the streaming, I would be totally on board, and I find MLB TV super fucking worth that price. So,
yeah, even with its issues and its foibles, and don't even get me started on the audio app because of the shitty commercial. But again, not to belabor this point, but I haven't been a football fan in a long time. But I remember like the early to mid aughts where it was like, we don't know if the Lions game is actually going to be on Fox this weekend because we don't know if they're going to sell out because they're terrible.
Yeah.
There were times where you might not get to watch the Lions game if enough people didn't buy tickets to the game. Like, you could only watch it at home if it sold out.
Is that right? That's a weird rule.
Yeah, so please spare me your fucking indignation over how hard it is to watch a baseball game.
Amen. All right,
Thank you.
Let's save this MILB story for next week. But
I'm glad you put it in there, though, because I was fascinated by it.
It's a great story. Go to The Athletic and read it for your homework, listeners. It's called, the headline is called, A New Group is Buying Up Minor League Baseball Teams at a Feverish Pace. What's the end game? Great read. We're going to talk more about it next week, but right now we got to move on to our main topic. Rookies. So, of course, last week, everybody remembers where we were when we saw Jackson Holliday make his debut. He went 0 for 5. He is, of course, the son of Matt Holliday. He has been the top-ranked prospect in baseball for a while, amongst an already extremely talented and extremely young Orioles team. They've got, Gunnar Henderson, they've got Adley Rutschman. They've basically had a Rookie of the Year candidate every year for the last 4 years. And good for them, honestly, truly. He finally got his hit, his very first Major League hit after 15 at-bats. He had the go-ahead RBI single against the Brewers on Sunday, made sure that the Orioles still haven't been swept in over 2 years. I declare this, Carl, the year of the rookie, because Holliday is just an added bonus to the field of players that are out there. Jackson Chourio, for instance, he wowed me when that first opening weekend when he went nuts. Another rookie Jackson. He's an outfielder for the Brewers. He's already hitting 240. Excuse me. 240 with a 658 OPS, 2 homers. He received a major contract extension right before making his debut. I think we talked about that a little bit in the preseason preview. Cole Keith, another person that got an enormous extension prior to making his debut. Hitting a little more modest. He's at 208 average, 502 OPS, but he's contributed some clutch RBIs, and he's already worth 3 defensive runs saved above average. I think I read that right in his BREF page. Feel free to fact check me on it, but he's made some fantastic defensive moves. And Wyatt Langford, who was just drafted last year, already a starting outfielder for the Rangers. He's hitting 257 average, 655 OPS, jumping the line for potential Rookie of the Year, and like I said, he just got drafted last year. That's kind of the field of rookies that we're talking about. But somebody said something on Twitter or something that I saw yesterday where they were like, man, why can't we just draft a guy that goes nuts the second he debuts? Like, why can't we have that? And I said, listen, you're viewing this all in passing. You view your team under a microscope. You look at your guys and you say, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing anything? Whereas the other teams, you're like, you see a clip, you see a highlight, you go, holy shit, Ellie De La Cruz is going off. He's amazing. It's like, yeah, in that clip, but not every game, not all the time. He's not like, and so I think for many people, the rookie is this sort of magic solution that's supposed to come to your team and fix everything, and not all of them pan out like that. And in today's episode, we're going to look at rookies who went off and went on to miraculous careers. We're going to see some guys that had fantastic rookie years and never did that again, guys that were highly touted prospects and never did anything, and then guys that were shitty rookies and then went on to Hall of Fame careers. We're going to talk about all of it here on Put Me a Coach. No, we're not doing that.
I will say I liked your mention of the fan bases, because there's nothing that fan bases love more than to be aggrieved about things. Wyatt Langford has a local connection to us as Tigers fans, because there was a lot of discussion amongst Tigers fans, like, should it be Langford? Should it be Max Clark? I was in Team Langford because I don't think that you should ever draft high school players, because...
And we're going to get to that later.
Right. But I don't think you should ever do that. But, good news. I'm an idiot. It doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. I'm just a guy who has a podcast. So don't always look for reasons to be aggrieved, everybody. Just try to enjoy the sport.
When people say, Max Clark, by the way, is who the Tigers drafted last year. When people say, wow, I don't think he's going to cut it. Has anybody been watching his at-bats? He looks so lost, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting here like, you're watching Florida Developmental League games. You're following his stat line of a 19-year-old that closely. When we've got a major league team with 26 guys that I have to pay attention to. Fuck all the way off, man. I don't care what Max Clark is doing right now.
Nope. I don't want to digress too much, but I saw a post today in the MLB sub, like, man, fucking power rankings are bullshit. Like, all they do is look at the one-loss record, like, that's it. They've got the Yankees at the top, but the Baltimore Orioles, and they start rattling off these, like, hyper-specific Baltimore Orioles stats. I'm like, oh, so you're an Orioles fan who's pissed that some random Yahoo sports reporter didn't give you the credit in a bullshit list.
Yep.
You will get mad about anything. Apparently I will too, because...
And that's sports for you.
Yeah, so, let's just jump right into... You've got this really well laid out, and you start right off the bat. You start right out of the gate hot with some of the hottest rookie performances in recent memory. And not...
Actually, this is the hottest rookies in MLB history, ranked by WAR in their rookie season. And
yeah, I see that.
Mike Trout... I knew he was good. I knew he was a great rookie. I didn't know he was the greatest rookie of all time. In 2012, that was his technical rookie year. Now, Trout actually made his debut in 2011, but the Angels managed to manipulate his service time so perfectly, so succinctly, they kept him 7 at-bats shy of the rookie cutoff. So he could still come back in 2012 and be a rookie, and they could have him under contract for another year. In 2011, 123 plate appearances. He was only at like 220, 281, 390, 5 home runs, 4 steals, 40 games. Pretty modest. End of the season. The Angels weren't really competing anyway. And then he came back. He was named to the starting roster in 2012, played his first full season, and he entirely blew the fucking socks off of the game. 139 games, 236 average, 399 on base, 564 slugging, 182 hits, 65 extra base hits with 30 home runs, 83 RBIs, blah, blah, blah. 10.5 WAR as a rookie. He was the second place in AL MVP voting as a rookie, and probably most likely would have won the award if not for a man named Miguel Cabrera hitting the Triple Crown. And it was not really closer than it should have been for a guy winning the Triple Crown. Here's a fucking rookie doing that. And that's Mike Trout. Trout, injuries have kind of slowed him down over the years, but obviously he still has that incredibly raw talent. And he's still playing, 12 years later, so...
Yeah, and he seems to be back, contrary to what I said was going to happen.
Of course.
I said, I think his best years are behind him, and now here he goes. Fuck me. If you are the kind of person who doesn't like modern analytics or advanced metrics, you hate Mike Trout. Specifically, you hate Mike Trout's 2012 season, because that's the first time I remember people arguing like, well, he had a higher WAR. He was definitely more valuable than Miguel Cabrera. Miguel Cabrera just won a fucking Triple Crown. You weren't even born the last time somebody did that. So let's maybe honor that.
There's another guy that is of a similar skill set, I think, Aaron Judge, who came right out the gate and raked. His 2017 rookie season, I think he was a true rookie. I don't think he really made any appearances prior to coming up in 2017. He had an 8.1 WAR season. He hit 52 home runs, 284 average. And this article that I was reading was written in 2019, and they were like, I mean, it'd be cool if Judge could do a season like this again. Of course, 2 years ago when he went fucking nuts and broke the Maris AL home run record shows that is entirely possible for him. And he's only 30 now, right? Like, I think that's still within his skill set.
Yeah, probably. I'd like to think so. He's starting to go into his old man strength phase. So he gets that extra, mythical +2 to whatever.
Granted, like,
stats.
his rookie season was in the bouncy ball era. He does play at Yankee Stadium. That certainly helps pad some of those, especially power stats. But, he still plays half his game not in Yankee Stadium, so...
Exactly. You can't give Yankee Stadium all the credit.
Dwight Gooden, his 1984 rookie season, who just had his number retired by the Mets this weekend. And this season is partly why. He started 31 games. He went 17-9. He had a 2.60 ERA, 1.07 WHIP, 1.69 FIP, only 73 walks, 276 strikeouts, and a 5.5 WAR. He was just 19 years old, virtually unhittable. It was the 14th best single season pitching performance in MLB history. And only trails Pedro Martinez's 1.40 from 1999 among seasons since 1910. So most of the best pitchers in history happened over 100 years ago, and Doc Gooden and Pedro Martinez are the only two since then. That's fucking wild.
Yeah, there's a great sort of like oral retrospective of what it was like to face Dwight Gooden at that time on The Athletic recently, and I can't remember which player said it, but like dudes were like all of a sudden like, oh man, my back, I don't know if I can get in. Who's pitching today? Gooden? Ah, shit, no, nope. My back is all jacked up.
Thank you.
I'm not stepping in there. And the other funny anecdote was when his son turned 10 and started taking an interest in baseball and pitching specifically. Dwight was like, I can help you out. And his 10-year-old son was like, what do you know about pitching?
A thing or two. Because even in his rookie season at 19 years old, he was second in Cy Young voting, first in Rookie of the Year, of course. And he'd achieved the Triple Crown the year after, along with the Cy Young. And, of course, a World Series champion 2 years later. So there's no denying that he was a plethora of talent. Granted, his career didn't last very long because of certain off-the-field problems, but I think his talent is still amazing and a well-deserved number retirement by the Mets for sure.
If you want to get real sad, go find out why Dwight Gooden wasn't at the 1986 World Series parade.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you. You just go find out for yourself.
Next up, we got Fred Lynn, a player I was not familiar with. His rookie season was in 1975, and boy, did he go off. He hit 331, 401, 566. He had 21 home runs, 105 RBIs, and a 7.5 WAR. He's the first rookie to win AL MVP, which is awesome. Obviously, like, Trout was the next closest. He helped the Red Sox improve 11 games over the last season, leading them to the World Series and an exciting playoff run. He'd have a 15-year career. Half of them were spent with consecutive All-Star nods. It was basically like from this season for the next several years, almost a decade, he went to the All-Star game. He was a lock and also won 4 Gold Gloves. Like, obviously his WAR wasn't just his batting, it was also his intense fielding. All-around great player that, again, I unfortunately wasn't familiar with. I'm sure Sox fans are very familiar with this guy.
I am a little familiar with him because he was one of those guys that was in a weird phase of his career when I first started playing and watching baseball. He played with the Orioles when I found out who he was. But like Carlton Fisk, Gary Carter, Fred Lynn, Andre Dawson, these are all guys that were still playing when I first started watching baseball, and then they just immediately retired, and I never understood why everybody talked about them being so great.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, this guy only hit like 240, and he looks old. Now, as I get older,
now
I understand I get it now. But back then, I was like, I don't give a shit who Fred Lynn is.
You think that's what the kids say about Trout right now? The fuck is this Trout guy that everybody makes a big deal about? What do you mean he's back?
I wasn't even born when he was a rookie.
Ugh. All right, this was the rookie that we were most excited to talk about last week. We're going to talk about the Bird.
The bird's a winner, well, a bird is a winner, well, a bird.
Mark Fidrich, 1976 rookie season for the Detroit Tigers. Nope, wrong thing. There we go. He had 31 games. He went 19-9. He had a 2.34 ERA, 1.08 WHIP, 97 strikeouts, 9.6 WAR, 21 years old, and he was a sensation. He was also a little fucking weird, and that was very well known about him. He would talk to the ball. He would pace around the mound. He was a character, but it totally fucking worked because the Tigers were like okay in the 70s. They weren't doing much until really the 80s. He attributed 3 times attendance numbers to Tiger Stadium any game he started. The average attendance was somewhere around 10, 15,000. Anytime Fidrich started, 30, 35,000 people would show up to Tiger Stadium to watch this guy. And for good reason. He was awesome. And he started the All-Star game as a rookie. And I'm pretty sure he threw a scoreless inning. Unfortunately, that was it. And we'll get to a couple other, unfortunate, short-lived careers, but he had too many injuries. He was out of the league by 1980, and he unfortunately died a couple of years ago. I guess about a decade ago now. Got trapped under his car, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the Bird, man. He's still a legend in Detroit sports. People still go nuts for him.
Something just now that I thought was an error. So I had to go and double check it. You said that he had 97 strikeouts that season. I thought that was impossible because he threw 250 innings and he was so dominant, but he only struck out 97 batters.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Pitch to contact guy, I guess. I mean, obviously this was 20 years before I was born, so I never saw him pitch, but I assume he was so wild and so weird. Must have just been freaking the batters out, and they were just swinging at anything to put it in play, but it wasn't doing anything. That was my guess.
I don't know. That was 2 years before I was born, so I wasn't paying attention.
Like I said, Detroit sports sensation. There's still many people that have Fidrich jerseys. He only really pitched for one full season, and it was that one. So, I wrote down a couple honorable mentions. We linked this article in our show notes. Of course, it's the Bleacher Report ranking MLB's best rookies of all time. We're not going to have time for all of them, but Dick Allen, Mark McGwire, Ichiro, Hideo Nomo. I don't know if you count Japanese players that already had experience elsewhere, but they're technically rookies, and they're on this list. Fernando Venezuela, Mike Piazza, Shohei Ohtani, Albert Pujols, the original amazing rookie, in honor of the day that we're recording this, Jackie Robinson, had a phenomenal rookie season.
1 second.
Yep.
Night, night, Ziggy. I love you. All right. You ready?
Yep.
To answer your question, as big a fan of Ichiro as I am, I do think, and there has been a little bit of talk, I think that anybody who comes from another league and another part of the world that is that part of the world's professional league should not be considered rookies when they come to MLB. That's my 2 cents.
I agree. Especially if they were like, in Japan, it's very different. Like, if it's one thing if you played a little bit in the Dominican leagues or in Cuba or whatever, and you're 19 when you come to the United States, right? And you barely played professionally. You were just getting your feet wet. In Japan, you got guys like Yamamoto, who is like, he pitched the Triple Crown like 3 years in a row. He's their Japanese Cy Young, Ohtani was already a sensation for what he did over in Japan. And they came over here and do the same thing. I'm sort of like, well, yeah, they already did that. They're just doing it more in a different country. I don't know.
I was going to say, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. They've been playing at their region's highest level. I know some people like to think that Japanese baseball and Korean baseball isn't as good as professional baseball, but a man named Shohei Ohtani is doing pretty damn fine in the major leagues. And where did he get his start? Oh, yeah, Nippon Professional Baseball.
Yep. All right, we're going to move on now to some rookie busts. So let's, I guess, some more sad music. Now, these, I want to qualify. These are not draft busts. These are guys that went to the MLB. They delivered in one amazing rookie season and then never did it again. The first and most blatant case, Angel Berroa, Kansas City Royals player, shortstop from 2003. He beat out Mark Teixeira and Rocco Baldelli, the number 1 and number 2 prospects in the league for Rookie of the Year. It was a pretty close vote between him and Hideki Matsui. So 3 guys that are pretty famous in baseball circles, and then there's Angel, who is not. On paper, he slightly edged out Matsui basically by like 1 or 2 points in batting average, OPS, homers. I think he had a ton of stolen bases. That was basically it, and he didn't win the vote by much, and then he never had a career like that again. Whatever he was doing in his rookie season, he was 25 years old, a little old for a rookie, but he hit 287. He had an OPS plus of 101, which means he was exactly 1 better than the average player. He had some nice pop. He had 28 doubles, 7 triples, 17 home runs, tons of stolen bases, 21 stolen bases. He was the starting shortstop for the Royals for the next 3 seasons, but he basically never hit like that again, topping out at 72 OPS on average. 3 more seasons in the MLB after that before his big league career was over at 31. After his rookie season, he was worth negative 2.3 WAR. Huge drop-off.
Yeah, a bit. I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's... Joe Charbonneau, left fielder from the Indians in 1980. He had an amazing rookie season. He had an OPS plus of 129, 23 home runs, and he had a 2.4 WAR. He ran away with Rookie of the Year. It wasn't like the other one at all. He was the dominant official Rookie of the Year, and this would be like if Corbin Carroll did that last year and then was like, okay, I'm done. But this is a little different because it's injury related, and this is the kind of the unfortunate part of a lot of these stories is that he had a back injury during spring training, went back to the minors, then there was a strike, so he doesn't really get to come back to the majors for 2 full seasons, and then after that he was like floating around the Mendoza line, pretty much done with his career at age 26.
Yeah, it's just another unfortunate thing that has happened to the Cleveland fan base. They've, especially the Guardians fans, have been snake bit for decades, and that didn't help.
Our last kind of rookie sensation was Chris Coughlin of the Miami Marlins from 2009. Looked like a star in the making. Looked like they were about to reclaim some of that magic that they had in the early 2000s. He hit 321, 390, 460. Awesome hitter. 46 extra base hits. 1.1 WAR. Easy Rookie of the Year. 24 years old, and he beat out other huge names like J.A. Happ, Tommy Hanson, Andrew McCutchen, Casey McGehee. I don't know who that last guy is, but I know the other ones. And but then he had a torn meniscus the following season, and basically never came back to the majors.
Yeah.
He kind of came back a little bit with the Cubs in 2014 and 15, but that was basically it. Some of these guys will have a blip near the tail end of their career. They'll come back and make an appearance with another team, but he stuck around until 2017, though, so that's a decent 8-year career, but certainly less promising than I think he would have been after that rookie season. And you hope that somebody like Corbin Carroll isn't going to get injured like that. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I had to do some checking because I knew the name Casey McGehee, but I couldn't remember who he played with. He was with the Brewers at that time, so that I had to look at that for my own edification. But then I realized that he spent 30 games in his last MLB season in 2016 with the Detroit Tigers.
I wasn't following back then, I don't think.
No, I 2016. I mean, I was, but I wasn't happy about it.
I already forget some of the guys that played for the team briefly last year.
Yeah,
Like, who was
same.
that guy, the outfielder that was there for a can of Coke?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea who you're talking about. It wasn't Grossman. Grossman was already gone by then.
No. Dan. Marisnik.
Oh, that's right. We did have Jake Marisnik for a hot second.
And he was okay.
Yeah, he was fine. I wanted to jump ahead. We're moving ahead to the biggest draft busts, and you are with these first two stirring up some serious nostalgia for me. Because at this point I was like 12, 13 years old. I was
You're plugged into these guys.
I was living, breathing baseball and still collecting baseball cards, and their cards were some of the most sought after.
I think I'm actually going to
time.
start with Todd Van Poppel because he's sort of the infamous case of draft bust. And he's one a lot of people point to and go like, hey, remember him? Remember when we signed him and how fucked up that was? He was an insanely talented high schooler. A kid.
Yes.
Just putting that all in perspective. He was 11-3 with a .97 ERA, 170 strikeouts as a senior at Martin High School in Arlington, Texas. The A's took him 14th overall. It was very interesting because the Braves wanted to take him first. They had the first pick. And they said, hey, we're maybe thinking about Van Poppel. And he says, don't even bother. I don't want to play for the Braves. He pretty much had his heart set on the A's. The A's took him 14th. Braves ended up with a scrub named Chipper Jones. So I think they did okay. Now, Van Poppel's agent convinced the Athletics to sign him immediately to a major league contract worth $1.2 million, contractually limiting the amount of minor league time that they can throw at him. So essentially, from the moment that he hits this team, they don't have a lot of minor league time with him. He pitched just 37.2 innings in Single A in 1990, spent 91 in Double A, was hurt for most of 92 in Triple A, split time between Triple A and the major leagues in 93. All in all, only made 32 minor league starts over the course of about a year and a half. Made his debut in 93. He's 21 years old. He'd never again hold an ERA below 4.5. That was pretty much where he floated the rest of his career after that promising high school record. Here he is in the majors, doing kind of bad. His best season was 95. He went 4-8 with a 4.88 ERA. Split time as a starter and reliever. Notched 122 strikeouts, so that's good. Never won more than 7 games. And kind of floated around the league after that. He had a little bit of success with the Cubs in 2000 and 2001 as a reliever, but pretty much flamed out after that. And he's sort of seen as the prime candidate of not a great idea to draft high schoolers.
Yeah, no, he's him and the other player that you mentioned, Brian Taylor, as a teaser. They are almost back to back. I think Taylor was 91, and then Van Poppel was 90, and Taylor was 91. Fun wrinkle about that 1990 draft: that was back when they still alternated the picks between leagues. So technically, the Detroit Tigers had the worst record in 1989 and should have had the first pick in the 1990 draft based on pre-lottery modern draft rules. But because the American League had the first pick in the odd-numbered years, it went to the worst team in the National League, the Atlanta Braves. So there could have been an additional wrinkle thrown in into all of that as well.
Yeah, we could have ended up with Todd Van Poppel.
Yeah. No, man, Detroit on the upswing. He did play for them very briefly.
Yeah. I think they claimed him off waivers from the A's and pretty much released him immediately.
And immediately realized why they shouldn't have done that.
Yep. So yeah, you mentioned Brian Taylor. He's our other big example of don't draft high schoolers. The Yankees took him first pick, first overall, 1991. Signed him to a wild $1.55 million contract, thanks in part to his agent, a young man named Scott Boras. He still, to this day, swears that Taylor was the best high school player he's ever seen. Scott Boras. Taylor had a win-loss record in high school of 29-6, an ERA of 1.25. He also struck out 213 hitters, 88 innings pitched while walking 28. His fastball nearly hit triple digits. Big deal in the 90s. The Yankees had a little bit of concern with his fundamentals, so unlike Van Poppel, they didn't want to rush him to the major leagues. So they started him in Double-A. He had a 13-7 record, 3.48 ERA, 150 strikeouts, led the Eastern League with 102 walks issued. Not great. They asked him to join a developmental league that offseason. Say, okay, you've got some fundamental stuff. Your fastball's great. Your fastball is major league ready. It's all your other shit that needs work. And little stuff like picking off batters, checking the runner, stuff like that. You just want to make sure that you're fully involved in the major league game and ready. So they're like, go to the developmental league this fall. He decides to go home instead. And, ruined his career because he's injured his shoulder severely in a fist fight that offseason, missed the entire 94 season after surgery, and then, of course, the strike was pretty soon after that. Never regained control on the breaking balls. His fastball was 10 miles an hour slower. He would never pitch higher than A ball for the rest of his career, which ended in 1999. So that is another unfortunate story of a very young, very promising player. Never even came close to the major leagues.
Yeah, and it apparently never saw Bull Durham and learned to throw punches with his non-pitching hand.
Didn't you see there was a pitcher that got pissed off at his performance a couple days ago and punched a wall and injured his hand? Why do they keep doing this?
Not that bright, I guess. It was Brock Burke of the Texas Rangers. He's
Come
the one
on,
who did that.
Brock. Speaking of awesome baseball names that are a litter of B names, Brian Bullington of the Pirates. Now, unlike these other ones, he was a college pitcher and impressive stats at Ball State. He left there as the winningest pitcher in the school history, holds the school records for most wins, single-season strikeouts, career strikeouts, tied for the most single-season wins. As of 2012, I guess this article is a little old, still holds the career for the record for career strikeouts and single-season strikeouts for the Mid-Atlantic Conference, or the Mid-American Conference. Taken first overall in 2002, over questionable high schoolers like Prince Fielder and Zach Greinke. Who knows how those guys panned out. Immediately placed into the top 100 prospects list even before he threw a single pitch, and moved up the list pretty quickly because in Single A he was going pretty solid. He was 5-1, 1.39 ERA. And then he started struggling with shoulder tendonitis as he got promoted up to Triple-A, still pitched decently over the course of 2005, and then ended up in the majors at the end of 2005 for a single relief appearance, gave up 2 runs, and hit a batter. He was shut down after that, missed the entirety of the 2006 season because he needed surgery. He had 3 starts with the Pirates in 2007, but he just couldn't figure it out. Bounced between the minors and the majors. With the Indians, the Blue Jays, the Royals, he only had 1 win in his entire major league career, and it was a 2010 start against the Yankees where he threw 8 innings of shutout ball and only allowed 2 hits. So I guess if you're going to have 1 win, it might as well be the best game you've ever pitched in your life.
That's a storybook ending right there. That's a movie.
Yeah. Not quite the ending of his career, though, because he still had years after that. But
yeah, but you don't need to tell that part of the story.
We have Brooks Kieschinik, I guess. I don't know. He is a
Kieschinik,
an outfielder and a pitcher for the Cubs. A two-way player, you say? Oh my God, this isn't the Babe Ruth era. That would never happen, but it did. He was killing it for the Texas Longhorns. He won the Dick Howser Trophy for most outstanding collegiate baseball player twice. The only player to ever do that. He hit 360, 43 home runs, and drove in 215 runs. As a pitcher, he went 34-8 with a 3.05 ERA. He got taken in the 93 draft, 10th overall by the Cubs. They decided they didn't want a two-way player, I guess, and decided, you know what, your power is very important. We're going to develop you as an outfielder and a power bat. He did pretty good in AAA, 295 with 23 home runs, and then he got called up to the big leagues and just was fine.
Yeah, he's all right.
He he did okay at the tail end of 96, but then once he won the starting job in 97, he just barely floated around the Mendoza line, got demoted after 30 games, never really came back as a hitter in that capacity. Tooled around with the Rays, the Angels, the Rockies, the Reds, the Indians, the White Sox, never came up back to the majors until 03 when the Brewers signed him, and they wanted him as a relief pitcher and a versatile kind of minor league role back in those days as a pinch hitter and a designated hitter. That's kind of a big role. If you can be a pitcher that can also hit, they'll take you however you come. And he did pretty good. He put up decent numbers. Opportunities were pretty limited. He was, however, the first player to hit home runs as a pitcher, a DH, a pinch hitter in the same season.
Wow. I remember that guy, but I don't remember him I just remember, like, he was a big deal coming out of college, but I didn't remember anything after that, so it's really neat that you threw that in there.
The tail end of his career actually was a little fun. Maybe not as important, but...
Yeah, speaking of a couple of guys that have had interesting, like, tails ends of careers, you threw together the script like you normally do, and I add some color, sometimes literally, because I like to make my text red, so you know it was me. Matt Bush was infamously drafted first overall in the 2004 Major League Baseball draft. Do you remember anybody else who was drafted, like, say, second in the 2004 Major League Baseball draft? Just off the top of your head?
I don't. Who is that?
A guy named Justin Verlander.
Oh.
It was not a remarkable. It was not a remarkable draft. I think like Billy Butler might be the next like big name, at least out of the first rounders, to do anything. But Matt Bush was famously drafted first overall by the San Diego Padres as a shortstop, and then immediately was suspended before he even set foot on a professional baseball field. He was He had legal issues. I think there might have been some drug issues as well. It was too myriad to list in this script. He was drafted as a shortstop before he was converted to a pitcher in 2007, and he did not make his Major League Baseball debut. The guy who was drafted first overall in 2004, he did not make his Major League Baseball debut until 2016 as a pitcher for the Texas Rangers.
Is he still playing?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe he's had he was playing last year. He's had a couple of stints with the Rangers. I think he's back with them right now. He's a serviceable bullpen arm.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was hitting triple digits, I think, for a while there. But then again, I think I could hit triple digits at this point, according to everybody on the internet. If I just try hard enough and throw weighted balls, I'll throw 100 miles an hour and then my elbow will explode.
Yeah, it's just the one. You got 100-mile-an-hour pitch. Make it count.
Exactly. If I could throw 100, like without the injury, like if somebody said, like, I'm going to grant you the power to just know what it's like to throw a ball 100 miles an hour one time.
Yeah.
Relatively over the plate. Like I would love to do just to know what it was like to have lightning in my arm.
Oh, I could put a hole through a tree. Let's see.
Exactly. Let's go. Jacob Turner. Detroit Tigers draft pick Jacob Turner was drafted 9th overall in the 2009 draft. He was drafted lower than anticipated due to his what was expected to be too high of an asking price. You want to take a stab at who his agent was?
Is it who's one of those agents that does that? I'm going to say Scott Boras.
Ding yourself. Or that. He was drafted.
We have a ding, do we?
Yeah, let's get a ding.
There we go.
That's close enough. He started the 2011 season ranked as the number 1 prospect in the Tigers organization and the 21st overall prospect. Both of those rankings were bestowed upon him by Baseball America. And he didn't really do much for the Tigers, was traded to the Marlins in 2012, and then went on to have a middling career. He finished a career in his last stint was in 2018 with the Tigers. He went to Korea at one point. He compiled a 14-31 record with a 5.37 ERA and 237 strikeouts and 369 innings pitched over that time. But he has since pivoted. There was he kind of like caught some lightning in a bottle a couple years ago because he had this really excellent Twitter thread about what it was like to be a bonus baby and how quickly that money goes away. And he's now since pivoted to becoming a financial advisor with his brother, but he specializes in handling professional athletes who are young and coming into immense and sudden wealth, much like he did back when he was
That's
a
badass.
young. Yeah, it's really fucking cool.
I feel like young stars need that advice so bad because, yeah, that money has got to last you. You're only going to play for hopefully 10, 15 years. That money's got to last you the rest of your life with wife, kids, college, all of that, And unless you're an amazing, personality, you're not going to get a TV gig after you retire. So.
No, and it again, a lot of people think, oh man, $6 million, I'd be set for life. You don't understand. You if you tell me that you got like a low-ish high, like low seven figures, like man, if I got $3 million, I'd be set for life. You are not good with money and don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, hey, I could definitely turn that money into something, but it wouldn't be enough to live on for the rest of my life.
No, as speaking as somebody who does consult people on big financial decisions, let me tell you, if as a day job, let me tell you, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the rookies that didn't pan out, and we don't know how some of our guys that we talked about in the year of the rookie are going to pan out. We hope that they're going to be great. I hope Jackson Holliday is going to go on to the Hall of Fame. I don't know. We don't. That's kind of the fun of a rookie. You never know how they're going to end up, and I thought we'd finish off with some Hall of Fame players, or at least players of note, who kind of sucked when they first started. And I'm sure a lot of people were calling them busts or saying, oh, we wasted that draft pick. We should have grabbed so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of them because I thought some of these names jumped out at me. Roberto Clemente was actually the top one on this list, struggled in his first year as a Pirate. Many contributing factors, of course. The racism was a big part of it. He was very in his head his first year because it was only a few years after Jackie Robinson made his debut. And Clemente was, of course, both black and Latino. So, like, he's dealing with two facets of racism, not to mention there's the language barrier that he had to suffer through. And, I think that he, of course, broke a lot of barriers for a lot of other players. And that was all kind of going through his head at the time. The Pirates also kind of sucked. And he didn't have a lot of stars protecting him in the lineup. And he had a back injury. The prior offseason, before he started his rookie season, he got rear-ended in Puerto Rico. So he kind of had a little bit of a back injury. Still a slumpy first season for Roberto Clemente, meant a 255 average and a 666 OPS. Not awful. There's some players that are seasoned veterans hit about that well. So
Yeah. Can't be mad at that, but he did, of course, eventually break out. I think late 50s, early 60s. By 1960-61, he was a preeminent player. That's when the Pittsburgh Pirates were winning World Series back then, and he was leading the charge at that time.
yeah, and they keep doing it. Those Pirates.
The dominant Pirates.
Yep. Jim Tomei was another name that jumped out at me on this list. He kind of didn't really get consistent playing time until like 4 or 5 years into his career. He was back and forth between the majors and the minors. He didn't really make a full season until 95, and that's kind of where the dominant Indians dynasty started. But he was on the team in the majors since 91, and in his 91 rookie campaign, he hit just 228 and 615 with a 21% strikeout rate. But he had 15 home runs. He still had some power. He did have some injuries. There was, of course, the strike. It delayed his breakout, but of course, he did eventually arrive. But like I said, 4 years. Like, can you imagine how much people were like, oh, this guy's a fucking bust, and it's Jim fucking Tomei?
Oh yeah, no, a lot of people like to put Nolan Ryan on a pedestal, and rightfully so. But he really wasn't great. Like, he wasn't like lionized until the early '80s, after he'd already been pitching for like almost 20 years.
Yeah,
like it's kind of hard. Like it's hard to really contextualize when you're in the midst of it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know who the hell Jim Tomei was. He was just some big corn-fed dude who was on one of the baseball cards I pulled out of a pack and was like, who the fuck's this guy? And threw him aside.
yeah. I mean, I remember him for how much he killed the Tigers, but
Yeah.
Well, here's a downright legend, Harmon Killebrew. They have statues built to this man in Minnesota, and he was downright terrible when he first started with the team that would eventually become the Twins, at the time known as the Washington Senators. From 1954 to 58, he hit just 224 and 667 with 11 home runs. That's 4 total seasons of those on average. 55 and 56 were his only full seasons, though, and he floated around the Mendoza line. He had no power at all. But here's a fun fact about Killebrew and Sandy Koufax as well. A lot of players around this time. He signed his contract at 17 years old, and he debuted soon under the bonus rule that disallowed the Senators from sending him back down to the minors. And he'd eventually break out long after his rookie qualification. 59 is when he finally started really breaking out, which was the year before they became the Twins. Like I said, Koufax had a similar story. Debuted way too young, had to develop on the spot in the majors because of this weird-ass contract that the MLB allowed. And obviously we all know who both Harmon Killebrew and Sandy Koufax are. Sandy Koufax threw in the park home run to Mr. Ed. We all know who he is.
Famously. Even my wife knew that, and she's your age and not into baseball.
All right, how about Mike Schmidt? Legendary third baseman for Philly. His first season, age 23, just a year removed from when he would be an all-star for the first time, the first of many times. But his first year was bad. 196 average, 697 OPS, 138 strikeouts, 18 home runs. To be fair, he would lead the league in strikeouts a couple times when he was good, but starting your rookie season below the Mendoza line with 138 strikeouts, not great.
No. It's usually a bad portent of things to come at that point.
Unless you're like a Kyle Schwarber or a Aaron Judge, where that kind of translates to you're swinging for the fences every time, so you're going to fail a lot, but 1 out of every 3 times you're going to hit a home run. I get that. Randy Johnson, we all know him, the big unit. He threw a perfect game when he was 40 years old. We all know this guy. But he was decidedly mediocre until he was around 29 years old, which is crazy. His rookie season was in 1989. He posted a 7-13 record with a 4.82 ERA for the Expos, mostly kind of used as a fifth rotation piece for the Expos, and then later the Mariners. Didn't really break out until 93, and in 93 he threw 308 strikeouts. So, of course, his career exploded after that, among other things.
It's a bird reference, guys.
I wish we had
why.
a little drum set right there. Little bum.
I can go turn my electric kit on and do
one
a
little
real
fill. Jose Bautista. This I found fascinating. Jose Bautista is a story of 2 different careers. The first chunk of his career, fine, modest, 235 and 755, ton of strikeouts, very few homers, didn't hit for a lot of power, didn't really hit much at all, pretty decent defensively, but not great. Those were the first 5 years in the league. And then the next 5 years, he fucking turned something entirely around, and suddenly he's the best hitter in the league. He turned 29, he fixed his swing, busted out, led the league in homers 2 years in a row, and had a strong 995 OPS. For perspective, here's the numbers from his first 5 years: 238 average, 729 OPS, 59 home runs in 5 years total. The next 5 years, he hit 265 average, 926 OPS, and 240 home runs. That is fucking wild.
No, yeah, there was a stretch there where he was Joey Bats.
Yeah.
He was a legend. Like, you did not want to throw to that guy. It's crazy.
And even like the final couple years of his career were pretty much back to those original rookie numbers, which still aren't that bad, but like for 5 years he fucking went off.
Yeah, he was great. Sorry, I got a hangnail. It's just been driving me nuts. I had to get that real
All
quick.
right.
I've got like a box of stuff down here, and I always know right where my nippers are to get those.
There you go.
Little peek behind the curtains. You want to talk about a tale of 2 careers? Josh Hamilton. I don't think a lot of people, like, I know a lot of people know his story, like, oh, he was drafted and he was out of baseball. There was almost a full decade between the time he was drafted first overall by the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, as they were still called back then and should be called now.
Yeah.
And the time he made his major league debut in 2007. But for those of you who aren't familiar, Josh Hamilton was drafted first overall by the Devil Rays in 1999 and was immediately labeled a can't-miss prospect, and he lived up to it. He was raking in low A and in A ball. He was named to the 2000 All-Stars Future Game. In 2001, he got into a car accident, which precipitated his problems with drugs and alcohol. He missed all of 2003 due to personal reasons and also failed, which I was not able to divine from the internet. He failed his first Major League Baseball administered drug test. He returned in 2004 only to fail multiple drug tests and be suspended for the entire season. He was then out of baseball for 3 seasons. In 2005, he was arrested because he broke the window of a friend's truck. He was out of baseball for 3 years. He finally was able to come back. Then the Tampa Bay Rays, or Devil Rays, immediately left him unprotected for the 2006 Rule 5 draft. And then he was selected 3rd by the Cubs, immediately traded to the Reds. He made his Major League debut with the Reds in 2007, had an okay season, hit 292, 19 home runs. And then he was traded to Texas that December of 2007, and I think we all know what happened after that with Josh Hamilton. He went on to have a tremendous couple of years. He was the AL MVP in 2010. Played in a couple of World Series, but then he signed a big deal with the Angels and never quite lived up to that 5-year, $125 million contract that he signed with the Angels, and has had multiple legal issues. As recently as like 2019 and 2020, he faced trial for like child abuse and shit. It was
Jesus Christ,
crazy. Dude's had a rough go. But we're gonna finish with a sort of uplifting one. I know that Tim Wakefield did recently pass away, but I don't think. I mean, he's one of my all-time favorite like diamonds in the rough. He was drafted in the 8th round in 1988 by the Pittsburgh Pirates, originally as a first baseman. He made his first pitching appearance in the minors in 1989, was fully converted to a pitcher by 1990. He was released by the Pirates in 1994, and then he signed with the Red Sox. Now, we all remember Tim Wakefield, or those of us who were paying attention or know the history of the game. We know he was an integral part of those, the 2004 Red Sox, that mid-aughts era Red Sox. Here's what I didn't know. In 1995, he went 14-1 through his first 17 starts, finishing the year with a 16-8 record, a 295 earned run average. He was the AL Comeback Player of the Year, and he finished 3rd in the Cy Young voting as the Red Sox took the East that year. I had no clue. And this actually comes back around to a question I recently asked Bailey at Foolish Baseball, and he answered my question because I was like, Carson Kelly had just hit that big home run against the Mets, and I was like, is it too early for me to start wondering if Carson Kelly is going to be the Comeback Player of the Year? And follow up, does he have enough body of work to even qualify as a Comeback Player of the Year? And Bailey said what I figured he would kind of say, which is, no, I don't really think he has the body of work to really be called a comeback. I say the same thing about Tim Wakefield. His body of work prior to that was so unimpressive that how do you call it a comeback? Because he never really had any level of success. But
it's more of a cum.
Yeah. Wrong podcast. You're thinking of the other podcast I host that you've co-hosted on, Cheap Smut.
Well, I mean, Wakefield was a legend. I do wonder what they qualified that Comeback Player of the Year award with, though, because he kind of just arrived. He's there. Here he is. Yeah, of course, he was kind of a professional baseball player for 8 years before that, but comeback, a little weird. But hey,
come back to what? What is he coming back to?
maybe it's like the Pirates going, see, he wasn't a draft bust. We just fucked up his position.
The Pirates fucking up the development of a pitcher? Unheard of.
Wouldn't be that.
Tyler Glasnow, Garrett Cole, Jameson Tyone, I believe Blake Snell?
Honestly, I was even looking at Rolly Fingers, and he didn't have a great first couple of years until he kind of flipped a switch. I don't know what it was.
Oh yeah,
Maybe he
some
grew
of those
the mustache, I bet.
Some of those, that first era of relief pitchers, back when they were just considered failed starters, there's a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the early era of like your Goose Gossage, Bruce Sutter, Willie Hernandez, who we've talked about on the show, Lee Smith. I don't know if I said Goose Gossage. That era, Raleigh Fingers. Dennis Eckersley was a starter in Cleveland and Boston before he became famous as a closer for the A's.
Even Mariano Rivera was a pretty decent example. I looked through a lot of these, and people were asked on Reddit, of course, who was a famous, rookie that took a while to take off, and somebody was like, Mariano Rivera. They tried him as a starter, and it didn't quite work, and it wasn't until long into his career they unlocked him as a reliever, and it's like, okay, he made a couple of starts his rookie year, didn't really work, went to the bullpen literally his next year, and became the Mariano Rivera we all know. That doesn't really count. He didn't really get the opportunity to spectacularly fail. He just kind of had a little hiccup along the way.
You want to hear my? You want to hear my hot? Sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you want to hear my hot Mariano Rivera take? And that is I don't think it's that hot. A lot of people talk about how dominant he was as a closer, and he had to be a closer because he had one pitch. If Mariano Rivera had to go out there and try and get 7 innings, they would pick up on him.
Maybe a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, but eventually, like, what's he going to throw? The cutter?
It's really fast.
It's really fast.
Probably wouldn't be over 7 innings, but
no. By the end, it would probably be down around 91, 92. But anyway, that's not to disparage the career that he had. He was tremendously brilliant in the role that he was assigned, and that to me is a sign of greatness.
Not a rookie bust, though. No. And I hope that a lot of our rookies will not be busts. We still don't know who might be the rookie of the year. Seems like a wide open field at this point. I mean, Colton Cowser, also of the Orioles, is going off right now. They have, I think, pretty much everybody in their minor league team, everybody in the lineup has an OPS over 1.0. So if you think that this Orioles dynasty is ending anytime soon, of all these fucking out of nowhere rookies that are going to go off, prepare yourself for the next several years of Orioles, of little baby birds.
Yeah. And you know who was not a rookie bust? This podcast. We're back for season 2, coming out of the gates hot.
That's right. And of course, if you like the podcast, you can leave us a review. You can answer our little poll that we have on the Spotify. Tell your friends about us. Go to our website. And of course, see us on YouTube. See our pretty faces. See my cool microphone thing. And next week, we're going to talk some ball. We're going to talk maybe about the fans. We're going to talk maybe about some crazy-ass player that went off. We don't know. That's next week's problem. But you listened to this week, and it's over now. So thanks a lot. Thanks for listening to Put Me in Coach.
Put Me in Coach is an Arctic Sounds original podcast hosted by Matt Coggins and Carl Mizell. Theme music is by Quack Quack Seatback. Edited and produced by Matt Coggins. Check out the footnotes of this episode to see links to all the great highlights, articles, and sources we mentioned on the podcast today, as well as the full theme song and ways to get in touch with us. For more, find us on Twitter and Instagram at PutMeInPod or at our website, putmeincoachpod.com.